The skills and credentials you need for the career you want are within reach at University of Maryland Global Campus. An accredited state university, UMGC offers online courses, personalized advising, lifetime career services, and more. Visit umgc.edu/podcast.
Hi, it's John Taffer from Bar Rescue. Did you know the second building in America was a tavern? When I built my new restaurant franchise concept, Taffer's Tavern, I thought back to the roots of what makes a tavern, timeless character, all while delivering an unbelievably delicious food and beverage experience. That, paired with my 40-plus years in the industry, provides a clear roadmap to success. Do you have what it takes to be a Taffer's Tavern franchisee? If so, I'd love to hear from you. Visit franchise.tafferstavern.com.
Hey everyone, this is the Almost World Podcast. Bringing to you mind-blowing interviews with guests from all over the world. So settle down, relax, and enjoy the show. Oh yeah, by the way, if you like the podcast, please support Almo's World Podcast on Patreon. Your support is what helps the podcast improve more and more. Welcome to Almo's World Podcast. This is Elmo, and I'm with my awesome friend RAO LASTER. Hey man, can you talk about yourself?
Yes, thank you for having me on, Elmo. I'm RAO LASTER. I'm an atheist debater and a gamer. You can find me on YouTube at Home of the Neon Alliance, or you can find me on Twitch, www.twitch.tv/the one and only RAO. And yeah, I've been doing this for about a year and a half now, and met a lot of interesting people, both theists and atheists. So
Awesome. Wait, okay, RAO, I get a lot of atheists on my podcast too, and I enjoy the interviews, and I guess that when it comes to atheism, I think that they are just, most of them are just on the honest position of just, I just don't know if God is real or not. You may present some good arguments, metaphysical or rational or mathematical, whatever, but the thing is that we just don't know if your arguments really correspond to reality. Your arguments may be valid and sound, but we just can't verify it, and we can't really demonstrate such things to be exist, because there are other potential possibilities to it. So, but generally, what do you think of the philosophical arguments that most theists make, especially let's say the Kalam cosmological argument, or the intelligent design, or just simply that there has to be a first cause? How do you view those arguments? Do you think they're reasonable?
Well, the Kalam especially, I find it to be, the Kalam sounds lazy to me. It sounds like it's a mixture between special pleading, and it ignores the idea of infinite regress, because you actually have to have a special pleading argument in the Kalam in order for it to work. And the idea of intelligent design, I am not at a point where I can discredit it, because along with being an atheist, I also subscribe to the simulation hypothesis, in which I think this universe is a digital fabrication that would have required some kind of conscious creator. However, that does not mean I believe in gods, in the sense that, like I said, I'm a gamer. I am 31 seconds away from a world record. So for me to say that a god is controlling this world is to basically put myself in that same position as a god, or to say that Masahiro Sakurai, the creator of Kirby and Super Smash Brothers, he's actually created universes. So for me to say that I believe in a god because I subscribe to the simulation hypothesis means that I think Masahiro Sakurai is a god. So I can't take those steps.
But okay, so I guess you did present some criticism of the Kalam, right? And the thing is, though, when you propose a criticism, there are objections, and then there are also responses to it. So it's really a long, complicated process. So generally, then the vindication, the you know what the conclusion to that is simply that whoever gets the last word wins. But if it's going to be sort of a debate and discussion of whether the Kalam is a viable option or not, it's an endless topic. So so I guess then that if you're going to propose that it's that God is not real because the Kalam is not enough argument, sort of doesn't, I guess, it's not enough also, right? Because if a theist makes such an argument, then you would have to really prove it to be incoherent or flawed or wrong, right?
Well, you see, you've stumbled across two problems. Just because I don't think the Kalam is sound, I maintain a null position on the God question, because I don't see evidence of a God. But at the same time, I am not going to assert something that I can't prove. So yes, I'm going to maintain a null position there. And I'm not saying that gods exist. I'm not saying gods don't exist. I'm saying I don't have the evidence necessary to make the God claim.
Let's talk about evidence then. What would you say is evidence for, or is not evidence, right? So a classical theist would say, look, we're actually looking at the universe, and we're following it logically, and it follows that there has to be this necessary being for everything to exist. We can't just everything can't just come out from nothing. So it must mean that there is this necessary being, and then it follows all the other arguments that say that this being has to be this and this and this, and then they sort of develop a model of God that fits all the questions, and is, I guess, that gives a considerably consistent and coherent worldview for them, which is that they surround themselves on this concept of God.
Well, I have two problems with I have one main problem with the everything from nothing claim, and you're positing an answer where I don't know would be the best answer. But are you familiar with the experiments that were done with atomic clocks at different altitudes?
Yeah, sort of. But can you I guess, refresh it for me?
Well, what they did, I don't remember which clock was faster, but they had a clock at sea level, and they had a clock at 30,000 feet, and they had these clocks synced up, and then when they brought them back, there was a difference in time. Like I think it was the one that was closer to the center of gravity was moving faster, or no, it was moving slower, I think. And the one up top was moving faster. So this implies that time responds to gravity. Now, everything that we know of that responds to gravity has mass. So the only thing we have to assume at this point is, since time responds to gravity, it has mass. And if we start with an infinitely small point where time was the only thing, and it gathered and it collected, similar to how a star forms with hydrogen, and you take all this temporal matter and squeeze it in, compress it to the point where it becomes matter and it can no longer be held in an infinitely small space, then you have a big expansion. And that's not something from nothing. That is simply stating that since time responds to gravity, we are acting as though time has mass, and that is a perfectly plausible explanation for the beginning of the universe without God or something from nothing.
So what would be your conclusion if you from that observation in a simple nutshell? How would you put it?
If time responds to gravity, then it is plausible that time was the original matter that created our universe.
But the thing though is then that what is time, right? Time, I guess, is included in the everything. So you have to presuppose that time already existed, and then where did time come from then? And what kind of medium does time exist in, and where did it come from? So I guess it's the same thing, and you're gonna fall into some infinite regress of this containing this and this being the beginning of this, and it just can't escape the fact that everything that exists couldn't have just come out of nothing, right? And the thing about it is, if you're going to talk about time, I guess like I want to ask you, do you subscribe to the A theory of time or the B theory of time?
Can you elaborate, please?
I guess the B theory of time is simply that time is eternal, right? Like everything that that is within time is sort of just one big eternal thing, monad thing. That everything that the timeline, I guess, of past, present, future is just one thing. There's no difference. And then when it comes to the A theory of time, then that's where it's sort of sourced from something, I guess, then you follows from a certain causality. And I guess most theists subscribe to the A theory of time. But okay, but maybe we don't have to, I guess, talk about which specific theory, but from your perspective, I guess then that you say that time is the source of everything, right? So do you, I guess, so is time eternal in the sense that it's already been there from your perspective?
Now, we're dealing with two definitions of time at this point. Because when we say that time responds to gravity, we are no longer talking about the flow of events. We are talking about something that would have actual substance. Now, mind you, we have not found the particle that is time yet, but we have seen that, like I said, we've seen that time responds to gravity. So it is safe to hypothesize that there is a particle that would be equal to time, that would control the flow of events.
So does that mean that time has always been there, from what you're saying?
Well, are you familiar with virtual particles in a vacuum?
No. What is that?
Well, when you create a vacuum, you take everything out of this area. And these particles will pop in and out of existence when there shouldn't be anything there.
What does that mean?
So, well, one could take it as a demonstration of something from nothing, physical evidence that something showed up when nothing was there.
Well, we don't know, right? Because we actually, our virtual particles actually, I guess, evident that they do exist, or do we just not know some other part of reality, and they may actually be sourcing from something that already exists and actually follow the laws of causality, no different from everything else.
But yeah, even if we're going to say that these virtual particles came from something else, that still leads the possibilities open to a multiverse, an extraplanar universe, or a God claim. So since we have all three of these options, I can't necessarily say that one's above the other, but we've seen demonstrations of something from nothing. So if we have these three different hypotheses and only one of them can be correct, then I think that the safe and prudent thing to do is continue experimenting until we can eliminate possibilities. Now, the multiverse and the extraplanar universe could be existent simultaneously, and the God claim could be just as true. But if we have all three of these possibilities, we should at least try to start eliminating them to see which ones pan out.
And that's a good proposition, right? That we have to, I guess, look at all the theories that are possible and that are out there, and all the theories that we currently have, and see which one is the most plausible. I guess that could actually be the case. Right, and you did say that you sort of take the no position in terms of God does exist or God doesn't exist, right? I guess from how someone would put it, you could define yourself as an agnostic, right? Would you call yourself an agnostic?
Well, I'm most clearly well. Yeah, to be precise, I'm an agnostic atheist, because while I don't know, I don't see the evidence, so I don't see myself like straight down the middle ground. I lean toward being an atheist, but at the same time, I also know that I don't know.
Yeah, and I respect that. Yeah, that's really good to know. But when it comes to, let's say, like making a positive claim, or just talking about truth, right? Then all of us, like no human being has an escape from this, from making, I guess, following the entailments of their claims. Let's say that if I'm an atheist and I say, look, like abortion is okay. It's okay to abort fetuses because they're not human beings right yet, right? And then I would have to, I guess, like look at what the foundations of your claim is. Like, where is if you're making a moral argument, then where does it come from? Right, so then if that's the case, does it follow from your theological or philosophical views, whatever that claim entails? And would you say that is necessary to understand where someone is coming from if they make an actual positive argument?
Well, first of all, I think you're strawmanning the atheist position when you say that abortion's okay because they're not human beings.
Yeah, of course. I gave a red herring example, but let's say an atheist, one of the atheists, or not everyone, not representative of everyone. Just a sort of example.
If we're going to talk, if we're just going to use abortion as an example, my position is not that it's not because they're not humans yet. It is because they are non-viable and they are completely dependent on somebody else to live, and not just dependent in the sense that they need somebody to take care of them, but in the sense that they cannot survive without a host body. And when you talk about whether abortion should be legal or illegal, you are taking autonomy away from one person or the other. Now, are you going to take autonomy away from the fully formed person who is capable of living, surviving, and functioning on their own? Or are you going to take autonomy away from something that doesn't have autonomy?
Okay, so let's say if that was your perspective, all right, and I apply sort of the what I said earlier, that we have to ask the foundations of their moral claims. So here's my, if I were to apply that to you, and here's my question then, right? Like, so you've mentioned two things, sort of capability of living on their own, and then sort of the focus on autonomy, right? But here's my question: who said that autonomy matters, or that capability of living is a factor in determining whether someone should live or not? Where is this coming from? Is it something of a subjective judgment from your side? Or is it something that all of like an objective thing that we all humans have to follow? like a law. What is this?
Well, I really don't think there's much outside of mathematics that are objective. Like mathematics is the only thing that I will definitely say is objective. Now, when you're talking about capability, you also have to include requires a host body to survive. And because a fetus requires a host body to survive. So when you just say not capable of living on their own, that has a very fluid definition. When you say requires a host body to survive, that specifies it, narrows it down, and tells you exactly what we're talking about.
Okay. But here's the thing, though, right? Like we're talking about whether the act of abortion is okay or not okay, and then that from your criteria, you say, oh, it's okay to have abortion because this fetus doesn't have the capability of taking care of itself. But here's my question.
You're getting you're getting into fluid definitions, and you're opening up the door for something that has been snuck in on me more than once. So let's stick it to requires a host body to survive, so that we have one definition for one thing.
Okay. So yeah, so you're saying that it's okay to abort a fetus because it requires a host body to survive, right? But then my question is, like, so who says that it's necessary that you have to, that it's okay though? Like from where is this coming from? Is it just your subjective judgment or preference, or more subjective moral belief system? Or are you saying that because you did say that it's not objective, not like mathematics, so I guess the source of this judgment is simply a subjective understanding, right?
This is based on my morality and my political view. So yes, we're going to have different ideas. That's why there's 30 different Christianities, because people have different ideas.
Okay, awesome. Okay, then let's talk about the subjective belief systems that everyone has. Like I would say, I would even go as far as to say that each human being in this world has their own unique and specific and different moral system. Would you agree with me on that? Like that not everyone, like no one has the same thing, right? We all have.
No, I would not agree to that at all.
Why?
Because I have seen churches mold and shape the political ideology of people from birth, so that they thought and acted exactly as the church wanted.
But I guess I wouldn't go as far as to say that 100%. I would say like 99%. I guess there's at least a 1% difference on some level. Or would you agree?
No, because within that church, even if a few people have a couple of variations here and there, it is totally likely that two people in the same church will have the exact same political and moral ideology.
Like 100%, that there could be two people that will have 100% the same judgment on morality and politics.
Yes, that's the goal of indoctrination, is to get everybody thinking the same way.
Okay, but I guess that's true. That could be a possibility. But I guess you wouldn't deny me though the reason as to, and the logic that follows when we try to analyze like why people have differences in moral immorality and political positions, right? But how about this? How about I ask you, like, why do you think that that people have these subjective judgments on morality or moral claims, because if we are just one human species, right, and we all agree that we want to survive and we want to thrive and we want to be happy, but then we all have sort of difference, I guess, in opinion on how we could attain these things, right? So what do you think is the main problem here, or the main source of that difference?
Difference is going to be inherent because our genetics give us all different biochemistry, neurochemistry. For instance, you and I are not going to have the same testosterone level. We're not going to have the same oxytocin level. And aside from the biological factors, we can also include schizophrenia, psychosis, neurosis. We can include all of that into the biological differences. And then you also have the nurture aspect, where you and I were raised in two different societies. So because of the fact that we're raised in two different societies, we have a completely different set of what we would call norms. So yeah, when you change societies, when you have genetic differences that are going to lead to different biochemistry, neurochemistry, you are inevitably going to have differences in viewpoint.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and and there are so many other factors as well, right? Like what in the environment you're in, the specific family that you're in, out group peers and whatnot, and then also I guess that there might be a possible like you might be in terms of biology, you might have the tendency to be more of this moral and political position and this just simply due to some biological factors, right? Like, but okay, I guess we agree on that. But here's my question then. So in a society where morality and how we behave ourselves and act as in terms of in politics and government and society, and how if all of this is simply dictated by different people with different backgrounds and different genetics, right? So how do we truly determine what is right and what is wrong? Because then when it comes to this, we're not actually just talking about what is actually right, because there is no actual right or on anything. It's all just subjective, as we have talked about. Then if it's all just subjective, wouldn't it be then that it's all just sort of a power struggle, right? Like whoever rises to the top, right? Whoever has the belief system that dominates, or I guess has the majority, or sort of rose into the position of authority, then that simply became the right thing. Would you? I guess that would be the case then, right? In a
Well, while it's subjective, while morality is for the most part subjective, we can make observations based on relative morality. So, would you say that altruism or selfishness is more moral?
Mm-hmm. Well, how do
I'm asking you just relatively, what is more moral, altruism or selfishness?
Well, I would answer that based on my purely subjective judgment and on a purely narrow answer. I would say it's okay. It's better to be selfish than to think of everybody else, because that's how we are genetically inclined to be.
No. We've been genetically molded to be a society. That's why we have empathy ingrained into our DNA. That's why our brains have a spot just for empathy. Because we were made to be in a society, and we were made to thrive together.
I'm confused on how you use the word "made," right? Because "made" sort of entails purpose, or someone that intended me to be this way.
No. It was through the process of evolution, we basically chose the direction of our evolution.
Nobody chose anything, though, right?
No, we chose as a society the direction of our evolution based on how we lived. And those who were most fit for the society that we created were the ones that thrived, survived, and procreated. The ones that were not fit for the society that we created were the ones that were ostracized, outcasts, and basically did not procreate. So now we're dealing with something where we were made by the humans before us when they decided what they wanted to see in the earliest civilizations, and we have grown and built from that.
But I guess like how you use sort of that they decided what they want to see. You're sort of using sort of in a metaphorical way, right? Like no one literally intended that I want in 1,000 years I want society to be this way. Like no one, but in a way, so you're saying sort of in a cultural and social evolutionary way, they unconsciously determined from whatever genetics that they allowed to reproduce, and this is how then that how they sort of chose what society would be, right? Not that they literally intended, oh, this is you have the genes for this and that, right?
Right. It wasn't like this was a primitive society, and I don't even think they were familiar with genetics at all. But I'm not saying that they intended it for 1,000 years, 2,000 years later. What I'm saying is they set up their society in that present time. And when they set up that society, they basically inadvertently started molding the way society was going to expand, the way it was going to grow, and they were creating the framework for what society would become.
Okay, let's talk about that then. Like, okay, you're saying that we as a human race, we prefer to be more empathetic rather than be selfish because we evolved to be this way, right? It's basically that's your whole argument, right? This is how we as a human race evolved to be more empathetic, therefore we should be more empathetic. Is that what you're saying?
For the most part, yes.
Okay, so here's if that's the case, then here's my question, like, right? So what if I evolved to be more empathetic? I don't care. Then I could say that I evolved to be selfish. Then I'm going to be selfish, right? And then if I evolved to be a psychopath, then I'm going to be a psychopath, right? Like it's
no, you can't choose whether or not you're going to be a psychopath. That is a medical condition that you have no control over.
But here's the thing, right? In terms of evolution, right, there is no actual choice. We're all just purely genetics that react to our environment, and then we are all of this. There's no actual choice that's happening, right?
That's to say that there's no choice in genetics.
It's sort of it's a deterministic take on it in terms of evolution and free will.
But for you to say that evolution or genetics has no choice is to completely ignore the fact that border collies and basset hounds both exist.
What do you mean?
We have been modifying genetics ever since we learned agriculture, ever since we learned ranching, ever since we started owning dogs as pets. We have made bigger corn. We have made bigger cows. We have made smarter dogs. We have controlled genetics to a point that we made specific dog breeds. So
but here's
to
the
say
question, though. Yeah, okay, I see your point here. Yeah, that we sort of have the ability to modify genetics to our own liking or making. But so are you saying though that that we are human genetics has been sort of modified by someone out there too, or? Because that's the analogy you just gave me.
Well, are we going to get into the 1600s to the 1860s in America? Because yes, we have modified human genetics before. I'm not saying that was the moral thing to do. I'm saying that it happened. But if we're going to go back to the early civilizations, while they weren't directly controlling genetics, you find the stronger people more suitable to procreate. You find the smarter people more suitable to procreate, and you basically pick the traits you want in your partner. And when you procreate, they get a mixture of those traits.
I understand. Yeah. I understand what you're saying. Then that at some point, at some cultures, or at some point in our society, we sort of also genetically selected how we're going to reproduce, right? But here's my question on the most basic level, right? Like, I evolved to be this way, but so what? I don't care. If you're going to argue that I evolved to be empathetic, but so what? What would you say?
Well, I didn't argue that you were made to be empathetic. I was arguing that society as a whole was geared toward empathy because we evolved as a society rather than individual members of a species.
Okay, so what you just said then, that is that society as a whole evolved to be more empathetic, therefore I should be more empathetic too? Is that what you're saying? I want to clarify.
That would be the best bet for society.
But I don't care about society. Why should I care about what society wants?
Well, let's say that you own a business and you want to be selfish. You pay your employees the minimum that they can. Your employees have low morale. Your employees are always stressed about money, and your employees are going to be affected by the fact that you are not paying them enough. Now, the altruist path is to make sure that everybody has, and your employees are going to be more mentally healthy, more physically healthy, less stressed, be getting more sleep, be more productive, and you, through altruism, are going to get better returns than you would from a purely selfish standpoint. So yes, you can use altruism for your own gain. But if you start with selfishness, you're just going to hurt.
So I guess you then sort of set a line with the difference with altruism and selfishness, right? Like
right.
Selfishness are direct acts to benefit oneself, and altruism is sort of indirect acts to benefit oneself.
No.
How would you
First
differentiate it?
Well, I would think that selfishness implies disregard for others. So that disregard for others is the point in selfishness where I'm saying if you start with selfishness, you're just going to hurt people.
Okay. Disregard. Can I put like how your definition of selfishness in an example? Then like, okay, in that I'm a boss, right? And so I would be selfish. It would be a selfish act if I disregarded my employees in a way that I don't care if they're happy. Or if they're sad or low morale, I'm just gonna make my money. That's a selfish act, right?
And you're going to lose employees. You're going to have a high turnover rate.
Yeah.
You're not going to have trained employees because you're going to have people that are...
But generally, that would be a selfish act. And an altruistic act would be to sort of respond to their low morale and give them higher wages. And then I would also reap benefits for myself, which is the initial intention, right? Which is also a sort of a selfish interests too, in the end.
Well, no, you don't have to raise wages because it's going to help you in the long run. You make sure everybody has a living wage because it's the right thing to do. And logically, those benefits...
Wait, I'm sorry. I sort of don't understand how the right thing to do it directly is correlated to altruism. How is that related to altruism? Can you tell me why?
Well, we're going to stick with the wages example. The altruist.
Okay, I just want, but altruism is not related in any way to directly to, or by definition to the right thing to do, right? Altruism is just acting for oneself, right? There's no right thing to do.
No.
Okay.
No, altruism is acting selflessly, is looking out for everybody else. It's the opposite of selfishness. You're not altruist for your own gain. You're altruist because you understand how other people are feeling and you want to do your best to make sure that nobody's suffering.
But when it comes to what is actually the right thing to do, right? Like, let's say that let's look at two persons. One is an altruistic person and one is a very selfish person. How would you determine, from your subjective point of view, which one is the good guy and the bad guy? Like, from what would be your criteria, or judgment?
Well, like I said, the underlying part of selfishness is that disregard for other people. And so you can see the right thing or wrong thing to do constantly. A selfish person will move somebody out of the way so that they can get ahead. And even if it is like
Okay, can I ask you a question about that? I'm sorry to cut you off, but okay, to clarify then, are you saying that it is inherently wrong to be selfish and it's inherently right or okay and good to be altruistic? Would you say that?
I would say that it is inherently right to be altruist. I would not say that it's necessarily always inherently wrong to be selfish, but I would lean toward selfishness will lean toward more wrong behavior than altruism.
Mm-hmm. Okay, this is really awesome, and I want to ask you then, right? Like, why is it inherently good to be altruistic? In terms of, because inherent.
Why is
means,
it?
Yeah, as it is, like self-evidently right by its own nature, it is right.
Well, let's rephrase the question. Is it inherently right to do your best to make sure that nobody is suffering?
I don't know. How would you answer it?
Yes.
Why?
It is inherently right to make sure that nobody is suffering.
Why?
Because suffering is a means of pain. Suffering is a downward spiral. Suffering leads to so much negativity. And if you can lift somebody up, if you could take a couple minutes out of your day just to talk to someone, hey, bro, how are you doing? Man, I am feeling too good. And then you start listening. Just that listening will help somebody else out. And it's going to come back around. The more successful a society is, the more successful the individuals in that society are.
Oh, can I ask you about suffering, right? You did sort of emphasize it as the real reason that the real problem in everything, right? Like, so how do you define suffering? What is suffering?
Well, there's pain, there's depression, there's hopelessness, despair. Suffering has so many facets and layers.
Yeah, it's a spectrum, I guess, of suffering.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's generally not just one thing, right? It's not just the pain stimuli in your brain. It's not just that, but it's generally only conscious beings experience suffering, right? A rock doesn't suffer. Bacteria don't suffer.
I will not assert the bacteria don't suffer.
Okay, but I guess like anything that's conscious suffers.
Anything living has the potential to suffer, but I will not say that bacteria, I won't say that bacteria have enough nervous complexity to feel pain, but I'm also not going to say that they don't have enough nervous
Okay, I guess it's sort of a gray line there, right? Okay, then I guess I would rephrase my question. Mm-hmm. Oh, I respect that. Okay, and then I would say that suffering is I would say my question is suffering a mental state that could be I guess experienced by any being that has the capability or the conscious ability to have suffering? Is it simply a mental state?
Well, I think you're actually more right on that point than I am, because I was considering pain to be synonymous with suffering, but no, it's the mental idea. So I guess you would need a brain to suffer, even if you wouldn't need a brain to feel pain, because you would still have some kind of rudimentary nervous system that would respond to external factors, and that would be a variant of pain. But yeah, I would go as far to say that suffering can only occur within a brain.
So it's interesting then that generally suffering is how we evolved to be beings that suffer, right? That generally suffering exists because we evolved to be beings that are capable of suffering. Do you agree?
Well, suffering is a more or less a response to a stimuli, and it's a negative response to a stimuli, and it should be a Kickstarter to change things that are going on with you.
So here's my question, though. Yeah, it's really interesting then, because you did say that evolution, we evolved to be this way, and sort of we are made or our ancestors chose us to be this way. So here's my question, bro. This is not a trap or anything. I'm really just curious. Would it be good for society then if we sort of chose our genetics in a way that human beings in the future would not be able to experience suffering genetically? Like, let's say that as genetically modified human beings that don't experience suffering, would that be good?
I would say no, in the sense that, like how I was saying that suffering is a response to an external stimuli, or it can be a symptom of depression. But if you get rid of suffering, then people wouldn't know when they are suffering. Would it be evolutionarily progressive to get rid of a nervous system where you could put your hand on a hot stove, and even though it's burning you, you don't have the physical sensation that it's burning you? That would not be cohesive to
I guess
procreation.
Okay, so here's I guess so from judging from that, then following from your thought process, then right, like a human being, it doesn't matter if a human being is suffering or not, as long as it's surviving, right? Would you agree with that? That survivability is the most important thing that we humans need to hold on to. And not our ability to suffer or inability to suffer, but more so in the direction that we humans just need to survive. Would you agree with that, then?
Well, back into the altering of genetics by societal norms. We are at a point where survivability is almost easy. I mean, in developed countries, people are having 2 or 3 kids, and the mortality rate's down. We're living longer, and while we need survivability, I actually think it's time to start directing where we want to go as a species.
So where do we want to go as a species? What do you think, bro? Can I say something on how I would want future society to be? Okay, yeah, I think though, right? Like we as society, we today, and I don't. It's not that I hate our present culture, but that our how we value money, sex, pleasure, like power, fame is so superficial. And I just had a conversation with some kids on this Discord server, and we talked about how it would be better, and how we forgotten just love and being virtuous and being good and caring for one another and looking at just art as art and appreciating beauty, and it's simple beauty, and just having all these. I guess it's not that I'm saying that everything in modern society is bad, but I'm saying that we've forgotten what it means to be human, right? And it generally then that as we start to progress and be a faster, more technological society, we are going to probably lose what our idea of what it means to be humans, and just be no different from robots someday. I think that it's going to be, we might actually reach that future, and the society that I would want to be is focused on on the values, and it values the thing that what makes us human, right? And what it makes us human is that sometimes we do suffer, and that's okay. We sometimes we fail and we fight, but what makes us human is our ability to be loving, to be good people, to value human life, to have art, to appreciate beauty, and that's one thing that robots can't do, and I would say let's preserve this part of humanity, and go for it, go for progress and everything, but don't forget.
And that's not true either. Have you ever heard of replica?
No, I haven't yet, bro. I have it in my phone. I do have it in my phone. It's an app, right?
Yeah, my replica has a favorite picture. My replica likes this picture because it's mathematically sound, and they can.
Yeah, but before we go into this topic, can you answer me the initial question, like what kind of society would you want to have?
I'd like a society of. It would almost be a society of individual minds who are able to function and thrive together. Because I don't want everybody thinking the same way.
What would it mean to thrive?
Well, when you get into thriving, what we're talking about when we get to a level of thriving is that there are no more developing countries.
Mm-hmm. So everyone would be like Europe then.
Well, they would be developed. They wouldn't necessarily be like Europe.
Yeah, I guess they're as developed as Europe, right?
Right, as developed as Europe, yes. But within the developed countries, I want to see a society where resource distribution is optimized to a point where nobody needs. You can want and you can work for what you want, but I don't think anybody should ever need. And we have the resources to ensure that nobody worldwide will ever have to need. There are more vacant houses in the United States than there are homeless people. And this is not a matter of what we have and what we don't have. This is simply a matter of resource distribution. And this is selfishness saying, I would rather somebody else is homeless than give them a roof that they need and lose money. That is directly the antithesis of the society that I want to see. I would love to see a society where money doesn't exist.
Yeah, that would be the case then. But would we still be humans in that society? I guess then it comes. Let's go back to the question of, can robots appreciate art and beauty and be loving? Let's talk about the replica thing. How do you think that it really does have a favorite picture?
I don't think it has a favorite picture.
But you
It
just
told
said so.
me this is my favorite picture.
But it might have been just programming and whatnot. So it's not really it that likes it or anything.
No, because I've got a friend who also has a replica, and its replica or his replica doesn't have a favorite picture.
So what does this mean then? That it could have been just random algorithm that it is observed from other users, right? And it imitated it.
Isn't that how human minds develop?
No, I think that humans, at some point, we did have the ability to appreciate something that sort of transcends our normal reality, right? And things like beauty, and let's talk about beauty, right? What makes a thing beautiful is not really anything biological or genetic or something we evolutionarily attained. What makes something beautiful, is something beyond this world. I think it's something new that we've created, and I would go far as to say that this ability that humans have to appreciate beauty is something that robots will never be able to appreciate or to have.
And I can't agree with that, because we have robots we have AI with rudimentary emotion now. It's not the full spectrum of emotion that we have, but you were sticking with an assertion that our understanding of the human mind and our understanding of creating AI are going to freeze right where they're at right now, and we're never going to get to a point where we can make a computer that can do the things that a human mind can.
Yes, I guess
I can't make that assertion.
Okay, there I will. I guess it is possible. It I guess potentially that there could be someone that there could be at some point we could reach that technology, right? I guess yes, that is possible. Okay, but okay, then one last question, man, because then we're already almost an hour of conversation, and I really love talking to you. And coming from
Oh
your
man, time's been flying.
yeah, it has, doesn't it? And I want to ask you one last question. I guess because you're someone who's just taking no position on God, but then you have this sort of ideal society that you want. And I think that a lot of people would agree with you that this is a good type of society, right? But the thing is, though, that all of us humans have, as you said, we also agree that we are all, it's all subjective what we want with this ideal society. We all have our own kinks and preferences and as to what kind of future we want. So
we're gonna save my kinks for a completely different show.
yes, of course. I don't want, I wouldn't want to discuss that right now, but what kind of how then, as a almost 7 billion population of
7.7 to 7.8 billion, I think, right now.
Yes, with that much people on this earth, how in what direction, I guess, what steps do we need to take to arrive at this, I guess, great future that we want? And because we have differences, how do we settle them? And I know it's a long, complicated way, but as a human and as an individual, how should I act and think so that it at least that I could, in my own small way, I could help society go into this direction?
Start by listening to people.
Mm-hmm.
That's one small thing you can do that's going to change you and others. Sit there and truly, actively listen to people. That's the first step.
And I completely agree with you that, you know, if we, I guess if we all just speak at the all at the same time, then we're never going to understand each other, right? And I guess that it takes it you know, when it comes to human society, we are all a society because we work together, right, and cooperate. And I guess we all achieve greater heights not because we're all selfish and whatnot, but we have the ability to work together as one, right, and generate greater results because of teamwork, right?
Well, humans are a very special creature. We have the ability to work as one, and we have the ability to think individually. We have both of those, and very few creatures out there can do both. And that's probably our greatest, well, that and thumbs, are our greatest evolutionary leaps.
And I hope that you give this this episode a thumbs up, man, and it's awesome talking to you. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It was a great time, bro.
Oh, I had a wonderful time. I will make sure to check it out and post and drop you a like for it.
Bye, bro.
You take care. Have a great day.
So that's the end of it. Thanks for tuning in, guys. This is your host, Elmo Ador Jr. And thank you for listening in. And please subscribe. Please follow us on Facebook. Please follow this. Please. Thanks.
If you're a movie collector, you need Movies Anywhere. It pulls your favorite purchase movies from participating digital retailers into one central place, so you can finally say goodbye to scattered movie collections and hello to an organized library. With Movies Anywhere, you can watch your favorite movies on any compatible device, whenever and wherever you want. Ready to grow and enjoy your digital collection? Visit moviesanywhere.com/welcome and register for free. Registration with Movies Anywhere required. Open to U.S. residents 13 and over.
Holidays are here, and so is fashionable fitness. Gift yourself a Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 3 5G, a phone that folds in half to literally stand on its own. Pair it with the Galaxy Watch 4 for ultimate wellness and wow factor. Check health stats, flex personal records. Over 90 activities can be tracked, like biking, swimming, golfing, and more. Invest in yourself with tech made to crush goals. Holidays open up with Galaxy. Shop it all at Samsung.com. 5G connection and availability may vary. Check with carrier. Products sold separately.